Paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Well, hey, baby.
Well, hey, baby.
How is it in the great show-me state of Missouri tonight?
It's not too bad. It's actually nice and cool today. So it's a good day.
Fall is coming. My pumpkins are growing.
Yes, I can't wait.
My daughter and I are enjoying the last of the somewhat decent weather in the North Woods. At the moment, she likes looking for animal tracks, and that includes Sasquatch tracks. So
well, that's fun.
Whenever she sees anything big or vaguely anomalous, it's like, Bigfoot. Is that Bigfoot? And you know who we have to blame for that? We have to blame the progenitor, the founder of the Untold radio network, Doug Hychek, because his show Monster Quest is such a massive influence on my daughter. She loves it. She's always like, "Can we watch Monster Quest?"
It's a good show.
So that's where I think her love for Sasquatch comes from. Talking about paranormal television and films and entertainments and the like, we have back with us tonight two wonderful guests that we've had on the show previously. They've been in the entertainment industry for years, but they're probably best known in the paranormal community for their three most recent feature films, and that is The House in Between, which we've interviewed them about in the past, as well as we had John and Amy Ballard, who are two of the main investigators in that movie, and that was co-directed by Steve Gonzalez, right? He's one of those big ghost shows. What's that big ghost show he's on? You know it better than I do.
Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters. I get them all confused.
Was the original.
Yeah, you watch far more paranormal TV than I do, except Monster Quest. I probably watch more of that than you do. And then they did The Sleepless Unrest, which was a wonderful doco too. It was about the Conjuring House, right?
Yes, it was.
Super creepy. And I just watched their latest documentary, which is a sequel to The House in Between, The House in Between 2, which is fantastic. So I'm sure we'll be chatting an awful lot about that. I have so many questions for them regarding that tonight. So really, without any further ado, welcome to the show, the wonderful Vera and Kendall Whelpton.
Hey!
How are you guys?
It's great to have you back.
Well.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It's always fun to talk to you guys.
Oh, it's fun talking to you. It was wonderful to revisit you guys when I watched the episode, or the movie rather, last night, The House in Between 2. I think that's one of the things I love most about that doco, to go back and to see the story continue, which is kind of it's not really that regular an occurrence in paranormal documentaries where you go back and visit the same location.
Yeah. We're almost as surprised as you guys. Like, we didn't even know that we're going to go for a number 2 after number 1, but it started. Stuff is still happening at the house. Alice's story wasn't completely told, and there was just so much more to the story. It just kind of, made sense after a while. And, people were asking for it too. Like our viewers and our fans and everything were asking for more, they wanted more. So it's just kind of a no-brainer to go back and do part 2.
And one of the wonderful things in there, and then I'll let Jen ask a few questions, was to see Alice be able to get to a more comfortable situation in the house. And I thought it was wonderful that Steve said that was almost your intentions for you guys, to be able to make the owner of the house actually get to a level where she was able to spend a night in the house, which she hadn't been able to do for, like, was it a decade? Or it was years anyway, right? Since she last slept in that house.
Yeah, about 11 years by then, 12 years.
Yeah, almost 12. Yeah. So her whole life has been, affected by what's going on at her house and paranormal. And that was one of the things for doing a part 2 as well. I know Steve and I and Vera, after part 1, we felt pretty unsettled because we didn't accomplish our goal, which was to move Alice back in,
Yeah.
And she you know, she's been affected by it for sure, and moving out of your dream home because of mostly because of one terrifying incident, but you know, over time, multiple things happening at the house. But yeah, she's
and more than anything, I mean, it's not just the haunting that affected her as much as just the lack of support that she had from people. Because when she would tell her story, you know, people wouldn't believe her, or they started thinking, oh, you know, a wild lady with her crazy stories. And, you know, she started like feeling just kind of lost and you know, with the lack of support. But then now you can see in the second part, she has so much more confidence because now she has all this support of people that actually believing her story and getting evidence. So that's so reassuring, you know, and I related to that because, you know, I have experienced paranormal things that I often even tell my own husband sometimes, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, I promise.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was very rewarding to see that change from part 1 to part 2 and see a lady who's so much more confident and more open and more confident on sharing her story. And then she told us that like people come to her house and now they're sharing their story with her, and now they can like, you know, confide to each other. So I don't know, I think like it feels good to know that documentary just kind of empowered a person, and not just that, but like it opened the minds of a community to just not be judging her so hard.
Yes, that was good to hear, to watch when I ended up watching the show. But another thing that I thought was really kind of cool that you brought in more people. You had, a couple of psychics, and of course we had Sam Belcher was on once before. He was there, and you had
Jill Morris,
Dustin,
and Dustin,
Elizabeth.
Saint. I thought that was really cool. You brought them in because they all had different angles of investigating. So, did you find any of those a little more compelling that you were used to doing, or hadn't really thought about? Or
for me, real quick, I just have to share. It was amazing to see very professional paranormal investigators come in and just be like, what is this? What is this? What is going on over here? And just being neutral, be like, I don't know, all in to kind of like, I'm going to find out what this is. I'm going to debunk everything.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. And then at the end, they were just like, whoa, what? Like, this is amazing. Because, you know, people like them, and you don't impress them. They're not easily impressed.
They've been to
so many locations. So to me, it was super cool. I don't know if we were able to really portray that in the doc because it's so, you know, you can't really spend so much time, but it was being in person and watching the whole
process,
you know, character arc, story arc of themselves is going from like, I don't know about this, to being like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And from the filmmaking aspect, we, you know, Vera, Steve, and I, we really wanted to get some new faces in there and get some new people in there that haven't been in there before to just do a cold run. You know, we did that with Jill, the psychic, Jill Morris, the first on the first House Between One, and so we did it again with Sam, but we also wanted to try, you know, Sam and Jill working together and kind of have them do, you know, cold readings of the house separately and then bring them together to compare notes, basically.
That was really scary.
You know, I've never seen that before.
I've always wanted to do that. It's like, well, there's one psychic saying this, what would the other one said? What did we really do together? Would they match? Would they contradict each other? It was a little bit of a social experiment that turned out to be pretty cool. Pretty cool, yeah.
And then, you know, the experts, we got a scientist in there, and we got, you know, a GPR, and we just, you know, this one we were able to kind of do some of the stuff that we wanted to do in the first one that we never got a chance to because of time or whatever.
But also because people weren't open. As soon as they heard paranormal,
That's
they're
true.
like, no, bye,
true.
thank you. And now because the first one, and they were able to see that they were serious, and they were more trusting.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah,
we're not showboating.
There was.
I mean, people like Vera. I mean, how many geologists did we try to get? I mean,
electrician. I call like every electrician.
Yeah,
like,
it was tough to get like professionals to kind of come over and be on camera and you know, be a part of the first documentary. But you know, it really paved the way for the second one. So it was a lot easier. And, you know, we ended up getting, you know, a geophysicist on board. Steve was able to pull that. And
not just a geologist.
Yeah,
geophysicist.
Yes, I know.
Scientist.
So, you know, it's really, it's just, you know, looking at it from a, you know, a wide lens, and then bringing it in and seeing what this is and that is. And, you know, that's the fun for us, especially because, you know, we're kind of taking the approach in all this is like, let's just say that nothing's a ghost and see what it is. See if we can explain it, you know, and go down and show our audience like the process of it all, and they can come along with us, and let's just think about this rationally and take that approach, you know. And it's always neat when you're so focused and you have it going this way, and then all of a sudden something paranormal happens, and it just, you know, it's just like it changes, you know, and then you follow that, and then you just follow that lead and you go that way. And it's interesting in these documentaries that we're lucky enough to be able to do this, you know, to be able to like kind of pivot and bob and weave, and you know, this happens, well, let's bring in this, and let's see if we can, you know, put this in. And I think that's kind of the unique situation of these, you know, House in Between movies, is because we're able to kind of look at Alice's story with a lot of experts and a lot of different heads, and it's not just one person telling you what it is. You know? It's kind of a collective. So.
And you had the geophysicist actually has her own paranormal experience while she's there doing her scientific investigation, which isn't to look, and to just to contextualize it without doing too many spoilers for the audience, she's not there to look for a paranormal phenomena. She's there to see if there's something perhaps buried under the ground. But while she's there, she has what can really only be described as an anomalous experience on the property.
I was actually with her. She was picking up and she was finishing her research in the backyard. It was off camera. No, it was downtown. You know, of course, that happens always when the cameras are down.
Yes, always.
To still be mic'd. And I immediately, when Kendall, something's going on in the back, and like blah, 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 I told him what was going on, and he knows already my tone, so he was come on, and he got everybody going really fast, and we were able to capture the little end part of her reaction, because that was like very valuable, because sometimes people get talking and then you don't capture, and then they get over, and then you don't get the real raw reaction of someone who just doing something so scary. So that was, we were really excited about that we were able to capture that. And more than anything, I mean, not for her, she wasn't stoked at all. And in fact, she asked
changed her life.
I mean, she was kind of like, I don't know about this. And
you can see it on her face. She's like trying to process it. It's like, this doesn't make sense to my scientific brain. It was so
human. And your camera kept fogging up, and it's like,
it was crazy. It was a crazy moment.
Such a dramatic moment.
Because it's so hot in Mississippi, and I go from the air conditioning out. I'm like running wires, like everything, like just a frantic. You know,
like, and Steve was we're like just hoping the camera.
But I think it's just that's what happens on these. Just like I was saying earlier, like you don't know. And then it just goes this way, and you're like, okay, I guess, like, you know, our geophysicist just saw, you know.
Don't spoil it.
I'm trying not to. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
I'm excited to talk about this because, you know, it's such a pivotal moment.
Now, just so our audience who mightn't have seen any of your films or seen this film know your working relationship, is you both produced the movie, and Kendall co-directed the film with Steve Gonzalez, and Vera, you edited the movies. That's correct.
I executive produced and edited.
And right, and just that's leading to the question I wanted to ask you. There must have been an incredible amount of footage as the editor, and presumably the directors went through a lot with you. But when you were going through, I'm guessing what was reams of the footage you guys had shot, and there's a lot of security camera type footage in there as well, by cameras that look like they've just been left in the house. Did you discover anything anomalous that you didn't know was there? Like, were you like, what's that there? I found something I didn't know we even captured.
Oh, it's so tempting to go into paranormal investigator mode and like be like, hold on, movie, I'm just gonna watch. And like, that's weird. Let me find out what that is. Oh, it's so tempting. And we had to find a balance between the two, since we have a delivery, and I really can't spend that much time doing, because that's what we had, the paranormal investigators. So I relied on the investigators on set for them to tell me what they think is valuable, and then I just go straight to that, and then I work. But sometimes we're just scrubbing and we're like, whoa, that wasn't there, that moved, what was it? And then we go and research, and 90% of the times we're able to debunk it, but we fall a lot into that, whoa, what was that moved? And then, oh, it was so-and-so that moved it. And like, oh, wait, that was a waste of time, like, but it's fun. I did spend, now for the Sleepless Unrest, I spent, oh my gosh, 2 months, almost no sleep, and going through every single second of footage from 6 DVR cameras. And I'll tell you, that wasn't fun. That wasn't fun. And yeah, I did find things. I mean, it didn't even make the film. There was a ton of EVPs, disembodied voices, a ton of like weird light anomalies that we couldn't figure out the source. Different things that happened, but it didn't fit the story. So maybe one day we'll be able to maybe cut those and present them.
It's hard when you're telling the story within the field there at the house, and then and then all of a sudden later, a month later, we discover like something in the production, and we actually did do that on The House in Between too. Vera found a really good disembodied voice that sounded like it was coming near from where Alice was, and which was very you forgot about that.
Wait a minute. So yes, I'm so happy you asked that question now, because when I was doing the editing process, it's in the movie, it didn't make the film. It almost didn't make it because we're always like, I don't know, but we could not find the source of that voice. It was a female voice. You hear it in the beginning of the film, and that was found by accident, because I was in that room during that interview. Steve, Kendall, our camera people, everybody accounted for. We remember, we know exactly who was there. Nobody was talking. We checked all cameras, all different angles. Nobody opened their mouth. And it was
loud in her mic.
It was interesting. It was in all mics.
It was, mics. Then we have the edit timeline. So we're like, well, maybe it's just something on her. But then we checked the boom mic, and that's like, it's in there. And then we checked the actual camera mic, which is like 15 feet back.
It was still there.
It's in there too.
Because we thought, well, maybe it's like sometimes stomachs and, maybe weird sounds. And but imagine that will be louder in her mic than every other mic.
But it was on
But when we checked every other mic, it was almost the same level. Like it was in the room.
It was like it was probably like all the cameras together and mics and stuff. It was probably within like a 20-foot radius where it picked up the same volume, which I've never seen that before. It was really interesting.
It was interesting.
So we put it in, and we put a graphic over it just because we thought it was kind of so neat. And sometimes when you're editing these things, Vera can tell you more, but like you start a section, and then you get through you know what's going on in the film, and you have like your outline and stuff. But sometimes when you're editing and you finish the film, you realize that like this over here actually makes sense with what happened at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, like this name that these investigators got over here might be connected to this. And, we make a point not to kind of like make the conclusion of everything for you. Like we give you everything so you can just say, well, I think it's this and that. But, but it's interesting because we find that a lot in our films, that like things happen that end up being kind of connected throughout the story.
You find a connection later on, and you at the time don't understand, and then you're like, oh, maybe that looks like could be connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it interesting too how I'm not as aware of people who are well known in the ghost hunting or the paranormal investigation field as probably Jen is. So I didn't know who Elizabeth Saint was, but obviously she's known in the field. I was fascinated that here's an investigator who actually makes specific equipment depending upon the case that she's undertaking. Was that must have been interesting to work with that in the capacity of the film?
That was exciting. Yeah, we were very excited when she signed on on board for the film to come out, and
we had many meetings. About this equipment.
Yeah,
and, she proposed several things. And we were only able to pick just a handful.
Yeah,
including Steve. You know, some of them were like, I don't know about that, but some of them were like, okay, we should try that one.
She built like the ball that just it's every kind of data point you can have from this ball, because of the main thing happening at the house is the ball rolls down the stairs with force. So what a better thing that she builds this device that can calculate the rate of speed that it started at, the amount of the air pressure, like everything happening around the ball at that moment. It was just really neat to her cell phone and alert you when it moves. It's like, wow,
really cool.
She made all this. It's like, that is so next level. I think it's that's like the future.
Her iron motor.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had never even heard of that. I thought that was fascinating.
That was really cool.
We were really lucky to have some of that stuff. And
it was only Dustin, Elizabeth, and you. I was way far with Steve, just listening to the whole investigation. There was nobody else in the house. It was just you, the three of you in the attic, just filming. Like, I was actually upset because it was like, we need more angles, more cameras, but it was more important not to contaminate, to have it. And then we sent all the guys out to the tent. We're like, nobody's in the house.
We had an awesome tent out there.
It was probably kind of hot.
Yeah. No, we had air conditioning there. But
that's true.
Like, that's a big thing for paranormal investigation. Because, like, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. And, like, look, like, the last thing you want to do is, like, be in the moment and hear a sneaker squeak. And then you got to go around hey, was that you guys down there? I feel like it came from, and you verify, and it stops everything because you're trying to verify where that noise came from. And then all of a sudden, the flow is gone. And what I've found is that less is more. And so, like, I'll run my own audio, or we'll like, it'll just be me with the camera and the audio and everything in the room. And we get everybody out of the house, and it's just so much better for the investigation. And so, it sucks for the producers and but there's just something to that, I think. And in your investigation and your documentation and everything.
I can see how a producer that's not really into the topic will get really bored and just be like, I don't care, I'm gonna go and look. But like, I know Kendall, he would like be mad if I even go anywhere near that. And then also, I'm so interested in the topic that I don't mind just listening. I just had my earpiece and I'm just listening and just observing it, just listening to them, doing everything that we're doing, even the silent moments. And I'm just making notes, and Steve's making notes. It was a long investigation. That was a long night. Everybody went home. It was exhausting, but it was so worth it.
Yeah.
I remember.
How many nights were you there? I mean, sorry. How long were you there for the investigation? At least for that one.
Well, we brought in different people. Yeah. Elizabeth and Dustin were there. What, 2 days? 3 nights.
Yeah.
3 nights. And then.
But then the guys. The local team, Brad, John, Amy, Sabrina, they investigated. We did a lot of investigation.
Yeah, I think we're on boots on the ground there for like over 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Wow.
The other house. Yeah,
about 3 weeks total. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the days are long too, so it's not like, oh, you're there for like 6 hours, like
we were getting
you're
out
there.
In the morning.
Yeah, we're.
Oh my.
That was really. It was a tough shoot. But it's rewarding at the end.
It is, to see it all. Yeah. And this one was awesome too, because like we knew we were gonna get in the edit and do a lot of the editing, and so like
I'm telling you, it was so good. Sorry, like I'm gonna say, like, it was so good because I wasn't sure I was gonna edit. I was so honored to be able to have the opportunity. At the moment when I was on set doing production, I was just making notes for the editor. I was just nonstop, and then just kind of having, creative meetings every day, and then doing everything else that you have to do. I was wearing many, many hats, but I had no idea. But then when I got my own notes, I was like, oh, heck yeah, because I know everything, I was there. It was so cool to have had the opportunity to be there, and then, have the memory in my own notes. So it was easy to remember. I couldn't miss any important moments.
I know last time we talked, I think it's been a while, that we mentioned that Alice, the owner and resident now of that house, had those light anomalies which really bothered her. And we also talked about in the Sleepless Unrest how there was other strange phenomena that mightn't have been ghosts. It might have been something else in the woods. We started to play around with the ideas that there might be some broader root phenomenon which is behind all of this different phenomena, from UFOs to ghosts to other cryptids, other weird apparitions. Is that anything that you've thought about more? Or you experienced perhaps anything like that on this latest film shoot that made you lean towards an esoteric explanation, or a more esoteric explanation than the standard type of supernatural ghost explanation?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Like we don't really say it in the film because we kind of don't want to be like, this is what it is. Like, this is, we try to, do a good, equal balance of skeptic and believer. And we really try to kind of sit back with what we think it is as filmmakers. And just provide the facts that we find in the field and what the evidence is. But like, I think these last 3 films have opened my eyes, and we have a 4th one that's coming, and we're having a lot of stuff that's happening that it's just different than the stuff that I've seen in the past with like hauntings, especially like these light anomalies. Like, they almost seem to be more intelligent, which I'm not used to. It's definitely something that is new that we've been experiencing from the House in Between one. Just their footage, I didn't have anything happen, but Vera had some stuff happen at the house this time where she was outside and saw some lights. That wasn't on camera. We didn't put it in the film, but Sleepless Unrest, that was like, we spent 2 weeks at the Conjuring home, and we went outside and experienced these lights, and we got it with a scientific camera, which is even more intriguing. So, and then, my thing is like followed up with multiple events. Like, you see the lights, but then you hear the knocks, and then you start to think, like, is this like Sasquatch? What is this? It's like so different than, especially being outside. We don't usually go outside on our investigations.
I have never experienced.
It's interesting. It makes me, is it elemental? Is it some kind of multi-dimensional, some kind of multi-dimensional intelligence? Like, I start to it's just the rabbit hole of paranormal. The more we kind of get, the more we like evidence we get, the more experiences we have, especially the personal experiences, because it's one thing on camera, but seeing it in person, it's just so odd, because your surroundings, that there's nobody in the woods, and you're seeing this light track you, and like that there's
what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Conjuring House.
Okay.
Like, we went back there and we saw this light in the woods, and it was like, it was there for like minutes, and it's just kind of like, we're walking, and I'm like, let's go this way, let's see if it's a trail cam, but that you can't get in there because it's all swamp. Like, how is it, like, it's all marshy, like,
and it's responding. We had witnesses because we were doing an event, a camping event, and we had several people that we don't know that were just there with us, and we weren't even expecting it. And all of a sudden, I see this light, and we start talking to it and say, "Can you flash 3 times if you can hear us?" We did it 3 times, And he kept going. So now we're like, what are you? Is it a human being over there playing tricks? There's no way nobody. We studied it the next day and we walked as close as we could to the same spot. It's like, there's no way somebody will be on top of a swamp. And then I was thinking it's like gas, but why would a gas respond on command? Like, it was just in your mind.
It's crazy. And then, we went, and that was after we had filmed The Sleepless Unrest. We actually went back.
Yeah.
We brought back the nail. If you've seen the film, we brought a nail home, and we actually brought that back. We wanted that out of our house. And, so when we were filming The Sleepless Unrest, we had the light anomalies there as well. And it's, and then in the film, we don't point it out, but like we captured above, like I panned the iPhone over at one point. We heard a noise out in the woods. We go outside. And I pan the camera over to the house.
We're looking in the horizon.
And you see these lights above the...
Well, we look in the horizon ourselves in person. But then when you look at the footage, it's like, whoa, we miss what's happening on top of the house, above the house. And it's just lights.
It's like these little
tiny
light flashes above the house that I caught on my iPhone. And
we
it's
didn't
like...
we didn't see them in person because we're thinking it's over there somewhere what is like happening over there. Oh my God.
It's interesting. And that was a claim by Corey, the owner of the house. He said that some investigators were there a couple weeks before us, and there had been some lights that came from the tree line and I think shot out. I can't remember if it shot out of the house. Yeah, I think it shot out of the house into the tree line. And there has been lights that have been observed above the Conjuring home that are strobing, or it's just interesting.
And you said,
I don't know if that's answering your question.
Yeah,
no, it is. And Vera, you said you had a light, or in fact, Kendall said you had a light experience this time around at the house in between Outsiders.
I did, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there's no good reception, cell phone reception in the house. You have to walk all the way to the street. So I was making phone calls for the people coming for interviewing the next day. And as I'm turning us around towards the house, I see this big, how do I describe it?
Like a shimmering,
imagine, what do you call those things that you turn on New Year's and they're like sparkles, like the sparkles, and it was kind of like, and then it moved this way and it went from little to big and then boom, disappear. And I'm just like, what was that? And then I'm like thinking it's like something related to electrical, because your brain goes immediately into trying to rationalize. And I'm thinking there has to be a cable there, it's probably burning, I'm gonna go and check it out. There's no cables, there's nothing. I'm like, that's just so weird. So of course I tell everybody, but everybody's just like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Usually people don't really, they kind of ignore you, including husbands. But I told Alice.
I said, did we get it on camera? She's like,
I have a camera, I'm on the phone. Right, then it's gone. I'm like, what?
It exists.
And I just wanted to scream and tell people. I told Alice, and of course she was the only one excited about it because she has experienced that.
Yeah.
Oh, so she felt so good. I can tell she was just happy. Like, I'm so happy you got to see that. But then I'm thinking, well, what is it? It's like, that's what I want to know. I said, well, I don't know. It's weird. And before we arrived, I think the guy said they saw little sparkles of light in the front yard.
Yeah.
And
same. They
same, and they're like different colors, like orange. And so I'm thinking, we're thinking, okay, the geophysicist is gonna come over and she's gonna find out what it is. Maybe something in the ground that's just coming out. There could be completely. It could be a scientific explanation, and that didn't happen at all when she was here. And
so that was one of my questions. I was going to ask if she came up with anything.
Well, she talked about quartz. There's a lot of quartz, and it's funny because we talked about limestone, and she's like, stop talking about limestone. I can't hear that word ever again. It's like it's actually quartz. Roving quartz can actually create light. And if the land is moving underneath, some sort of earth movements, and there's stuff that's going to come out like little birds, and thinking, well, that makes sense. It's just we don't have the equipment to test it.
But here's the thing, Alice's experience, what we learned from from our geophysicist is like her experience that she had that moved her out of the house was like a column of light coming through the ceiling and into the floor, and she could see through it, and it was daylight on the other side. And it's just kind of like, you know, the column of light was like 3 foot in diameter.
Yeah.
And it's like, what causes that, you know? And
I mean, it would have to be a gigantic quartz.
It would have to be like
the
a massive
friction of the quartz would be
yeah.
so big, you will feel it. It will be an earthquake.
Yeah.
Know?
And what explains the daylight thing on the other side, you know? Like
Yeah.
She saw day, like her part of her room was in the day. Like she was looking through, I think it's like, you know, it only sounds like she was looking through some kind of like shift or you know,
and she's seen other lights, she's seen other lights.
Yeah.
So,
looking across the veil or through the veil.
Yeah, but in the upper room,
yeah.
she mentioned, she never told us this before, by the way, which was another thing that happened in part 2. She started opening more. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? Like, in the first part 1, now you're telling me. She was in the upper room, and apparently these lights just showed up, and it's like they're like scanning the room. Like they look like mechanical - intelligent, like they're actually consciously doing something. And I'm just like, well, that's weird. I mean, I don't think a rubbing quartz underground will be doing that in a specific
like a
room.
scanning, like a.
She said it looked intelligent.
Yeah,
so
she said if she felt observed,
mm-hmm.
she felt like something was observing her.
I don't know.
It's very interesting.
Often.
No. No, well, she doesn't live there.
Well, she doesn't live there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, that was the thing. I mean, that was it. Like she. I mean, I would too. You know, she's there alone, and she has this experience, and that's it, man. Like she's like, it's so profound that she doesn't know if she's gonna disappear. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
Like she doesn't know.
Fear.
That's her fear. Is like she's.
Yeah.
It was so real and so materialized that it seemed like she could disappear, like she would be gone, like just, you know. So because you just don't know, what is it, you know, what is that?
Yeah.
And of course all these other things, what is that, you know? There's multiple things the psychics have told us. A lot of people have told us that there's multiple levels happening at the house, and I think that's fascinating because we're seeing the evidence of that, you know, with paranormal, with voices, and you know, some of the investigation stuff, that the interaction, but like the light anomalies might be something completely different, and that's where this case is a lot different, I think, and interesting.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's good that you guys approach it like that you realize there mightn't just be one phenomenon, there might be multiple phenomena. For example, the idea of Alice seeing lights and feeling observed at the same time reminds me very much of things like Michael Pessinger's initial God helmet type experiments, where an electromagnetic force can trigger the feeling of a presence there. So perhaps if there is something to do with the ground, or something with quartz or limestone under the ground which generates this type of light anomaly, that same phenomenon might be generating the sense of, you know, something in the room bothering her. So anyway, but back to you, Vera.
No, but Elizabeth Saint mentioned that sometimes an old motor in a refrigerator might be so strong, releasing this ion.
Negative ions?
No,
positive.
I think
I can't remember.
Positive.
Yeah, I think it's positive.
Ions. But anyway, it's so strong that it makes the senses and you know, you start feeling like you're being observed. Like somebody's there. It makes you edgy, makes you a little paranoid. You know, it affects you, and that's a completely, you know, it's scientifically explained. And she says sometimes your own fridge could be doing that. You know, sometimes people are surrounded by so much electrical equipment they don't even know what's happening to them. And some people are more sensitive than others. So,
did you feel anything when Elizabeth's ion generators were being used? Like, did you feel a change in?
You know, not really. No, I didn't.
No.
I don't think I felt.
He's on camera. When he's behind the camera, he's invisible. He doesn't exist.
He's in the zone. So
I mean, until stuff starts happening, I'm like, all right, this is probably paranormal. You know, it's like, all right, here we go. I get so excited. You know, I just
Yeah.
when stuff starts happening,
They
it's
start
like
skipping.
yeah, you saw that.
Yeah.
In the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also had some new well, I don't remember it being in the last one, but you had some new activity with the piano, and then
Yeah.
they ended up Alice ended up sharing her story about her daughter, which I didn't know any of that information, and
Yeah.
I thought it was very touching that it was a possibility that they were actually speaking to her daughter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They you know, they investigate the house a lot. They're over there and they're documenting, and you know, this was a new, like you said, this is new, and that organ was bought by Ashley, Alice's daughter, and given to her, and so it had a lot of sentimental value to it, and it's just the whole house is just interesting. I mean, the whole, there's a lot of those. Like, it's like, well, the ball moved, and then the first one, the ball moves, and then the doors open. It's like there's a lot of different things happening, and I'm glad to see it's not the same stuff all the time.
It's funny because we heard about the piano, the music claim on part 1, but nobody had evidence. There was no evidence.
Oh, okay.
Like her daughter's experience. Nobody really had physical evidence of it. And also it sounded like, the classics, in every scary movie, ghost story when you're growing up, there's always like, dun, 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 the piano that plays myself, like, so you're like, what's the classic claim? I don't know what to think of it. But then, 2 years later, we started getting evidence and started sending us videos. One day we were on a FaceTime call with Brad and John and the little organ in the back started playing. So we're like, we asked a lot of questions. Like, we weren't really sure. And we actually dismissed it because we're like, it could be a fluke. We're not going to pay attention.
Like, it doesn't make the film if there's any kind of doubt.
We're like,
yeah.
So we didn't even.
The part 1, we're like, we're not gonna put that in. We don't have.
But then Alice got that organ, and then they started capturing the organs.
Yeah.
Doing stuff, and I'm like, okay, it's time to pay attention to
this. Especially when it's interacting like it did. Like that was interesting.
That's we still don't know what it was, but.
Did you? I was going to ask you a question about the phenomena itself. And you talking about the organ then just reminded me about that. When the organ plays or played, and when lights come on and off in the house by themselves, is there an actual physical like movement of a switch or at the keyboards, or is it just internal? Like when, for example, just for the lights, if the light comes on, has the light switch been changed in position, or is there just a change in the current somehow?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is.
We asked that question too.
Yeah, from what we've gathered is that by audio, we don't hear the switch flip up and down, and also the switch is kind of always in place, so it's not a switch situation. It's more of just like almost like a direct, like almost either a draw of energy or some kind of like, it's, I guess we're not sure if it's like an energy like push or an energy draw, but it's something to do with
and we just
with the
let
line or the
Steve,
the light.
All of us, we turn the air conditioner off and the house while we were investigating. We pay attention to the refrigerator when sometimes it kicks in, and we study like what does it do when it does that. Those are, you gotta pay attention to those things, and we were aware of that. Everything that happened. The interesting thing to me is that it happens in twos. It's not usually like one thing and then another. And
you doubt it, but then it goes
and it's like
no, and then it's like boom.
Bam.
It's like it's this. It's really so it's interesting. And the light is it's so fascinating. The investigators, they say, will you turn the chandelier off? And then a little time goes by, or right away, and it just goes bam, and it goes off.
Because people were criticizing, of course, it's an electrical device, and there's a lot of skeptics that come on, it's a chandelier, of course it's gonna, electricity doesn't impress people. So electricity changes. So the guys started asking it to turn back on.
Can you turn it
It's
on?
like, okay, you can turn off we need to prove that you actually can hear us. Can you turn it back on? So they started changing that question, not knowing what was going to happen with it. Sure enough, the things started turning back on.
Yeah. And also part one, just so your listeners, we brought in an electrician to look at all that. Cause you know, our goal is to move Alice in and really just tell her, hey, like, this is, you know, this is happening because of this. Like, that's our goal, is to get Alice back in. And, you know, it's, I just, you know, I know all of us, it's been a challenge. Like, we're like, well, we'll get a, you know, we'll get a geophysicist out here, and we'll be able to tell Alice that the lights are happening this. Maybe she feels a little more comfortable. Maybe she feels like she can move back in. Maybe we can, you know, empower her, or she can, you know, learn something from this. And you know, it's just interesting when you kind of go down the line and it's like, okay, well, you know, this is the electrician just went through all the wiring. He took the thing apart, you know, this and that, looked at the, and it's like, okay, it's not the electrical. All right. You know, I don't know what it is then, you know, it's like, we haven't reached that point yet to know what's going on with the chandelier, but it's fascinating, especially when it's on command like that. I just don't understand. It's just, and I've seen it do it, and you know, it's just like, how is that doing that? You know, is that like?
And if we want somebody, an expert, a professional to tell us, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we want more scientists to. We love that.
I mean,
because it's like
he was digging like crazy in the backyard. Like, I gotta find out what's in, what is
right.
Land.
Yeah.
I
mean, we used all the stops for these movies.
It sounds like you want to go back, though. It sounds like there might be a house in between 3 in the horizon.
I mean, there's a lot. It's crazy too, because like the movies come out and then all of a sudden somebody calls us or, you know, emails us and it's like, hey, by the way, like, you know, that happened in the movie and that's been happening for 10 years. And I'm like, what? How did we not know this little piece? Or how come we don't know the name? Like, there's like stuff.
There's people reaching out.
Still coming in. And it's like, oh my gosh, like
the neighbor. I mean, the neighbor, she's fascinating to me, because that was a personal question I always had, you know, listening to ghost stories and paranormal stories. Like, what about the people around you? So is it just you? And we were able to reach out to the neighbor, and the neighbor was huge help. I mean, she was part of, she has been part of it. And since she was little, I thought it was very interesting, you know, that she has had experiences, not at her house, but in Alice's house, while visiting or while visiting her in the backyard. And I mean, that's just, it's just fascinating. What else?
Can you guys tell us, you brought up something a minute ago, and now I'm sure all of our audience will be just as curious as I am. Can you tell us about the nail story, the nail you took from the Conjuring House, and why you had to get rid of it again?
Yeah. So the Sleepless Unrest, that was Vera and I's film, our COVID film. It was, you know, during COVID, everything was closed down, and we had this opportunity to stay at the Conjuring House for 2 weeks. So yes, let's do that. It was fast. It happened fast. We're like, we don't have enough pre-production. Like, we just like went, you know, and we're like, let's just document our experience.
If something happens, you know, something happens.
And so
if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah. And, you know, we stayed there, and we ended up, who was it? Jen was like, hey, you guys want to go? We found a secret room.
Oh, Jennifer.
Yeah. The owner of the.
She said, well, we just recently found out that we actually have an attic and we have never opened it. Do you guys want to open it? And I was like, well,
Seriously?
Something up there. Like, let's go do it. So it's really exciting. We felt like the Goonies.
Yeah.
You know, like in this
I couldn't get up there. I was like, man, I would love to. And I put my head up there, but
Jennifer did.
She was like, I want to go up there. We're like, you have the honors. Like, she went in, like, around, like, oh my gosh. Anyway, she starts, like, all of a sudden you see her hand go like that, and you're like, whoa, that's something. And she hands like a nail to Corey, and then like
it was very old, like one of those handmade with a square.
Yeah, it's like
square head.
it's like a hand forged nail, and original nail to the Conjuring House. And so we just thought it was cool. She was finding some old nails and looking at the dead mouse.
Anyway, when we're leaving, we're going home. Corey just goes, here, take it with you. It's a souvenir. And I'm just like, and Kendall's like, thank you. I'm like, no. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give it energy. I'm just going to let it be. It's no big deal. It's just so sure enough, we go home, and I don't know if it was a nail or what, but things started happening at our house.
When we got back from that shoot,
it
was interesting.
It was really stressful.
We were getting woken up at night. Our little girl had an experience, and it just it was more than I know this house. I'm up late, editing, doing whatever, and it's like I know the noises in this house. I know the thing,
you're home.
And you're home, and you're like, man,
what was that?
That's what you hear kind of over there. That's not supposed to be happening here, And so we're kind of we did take a nail. I don't want to put energy into that personally.
But I didn't either. But then
she goes, get it out of the house, put it, and I put it in the garage.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, put it in the garage. And then,
we talked to a friend, Jill Morris, who's a psychic, and she wasn't part of the House in Between. And one day she started texting us this weird message. She's like, whoa, what are you saying right now? And she's like, she started asking us questions. We told her about the nail. She's like, get rid of it now.
Yeah, get rid of it.
We're like, okay.
Okay. But,
so we gave it to Cody and Satori, who this is a paranormal couple. In Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, they're in Rhode Island. They have a relics museum where
of haunted objects.
Just
will you please take this?
Yeah.
With them. We went back to the Conjuring House to have this sleepover. We're gonna go in the backyard and we pitched our tent and it was a night thing, and so we're going there to do that, but we're let's bring the nail. Let's just get rid of it and bring the nail back to the house.
Brian and Rochelle, who were there with us, Brian took a doll from a doll, and
Rochelle took dirt.
She just took dirt from the back where there's snow and there's actually bodies buried in the back in the Conjuring House. It's just, I'm just gonna take some dirt. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So they were experiencing things too, and I just don't know, because you're thinking, I don't know how much time I have left, but is it in your head? We weren't sleeping. It was really stressful. It was a very stressful.
After our daughter had that experience, we were just.
I'm having nightmares. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm having some sort of trauma a little bit from the lack of sleep and the stress of being. Feeling in danger, being guarded, and I'm just thinking it's all in my head. But then one morning she gets up and she's like, "Mommy, I saw somebody standing by your bed," and I'm just like, "Okay, great." And then we just dismissed it. And then again, I keep having nightmares, and she said, "Mommy, I saw somebody standing on top above you," and he was saying, and then she repeated with the tone. It sounded like she said it was the Grinch, and I was like, "What do you mean it was the Grinch, honey?" And then she repeated what he said. She was asking, "What is this?" And she repeated the voice. And then in her little mind, she was trying to figure it out. What was that? And all she could think about for comparison was the Grinch, because the Grinch has a little, the movie, that raspy voice. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's great. And she was crying. And then he filmed it. Because after we have experienced so much that we made a decision to start filming everything.
We're if
everything. I just never thought it was gonna be our daughter, and we're still having we feel like we regretted it a little bit, but at the same time, well, that's what happened.
That's kind of what we do.
It's what we do, and I don't know. It's a sensitive topic for me, but it was the most stressful 3 months.
Afterwards,
because that's and also, I prayed a lot. I was just, spiritual battle. We experienced more. I don't even know you have time to hear the whole story.
Yeah. No, is that the only attachment? I mean, don't get me wrong when I say only. It sounds fairly serious, but is that the only thing you guys have ever brought back, which seemed like a spiritual presence? Or
no, I did it on Ghost Hunters, and
And part 1, the house in between part 1.
Yeah, I brought something home from Ghost Hunters, and
it's so weird.
It wasn't just me. There was a whole crew involved in that one, and I still didn't believe it. I was like, I still didn't believe in it, and I still don't, because I really believe like this. Like when you start thinking about it as a collective consciousness and all this stuff, you might end up doing what you don't want. You know?
Yeah.
And so I got rid of that one, and then the nail just ended up. It was like, here it is, and it was like, I don't believe, I don't believe in that stuff. But now I don't think I'd ever do it or recommend bringing something back, just because it just messes with your head. Anything happens, you start to go, okay, well, is it this? And then and also that's also tuning in. It's always tuning you in. I think.
Because
like, you're thinking about it. And here's one thing, a little tidbit is, it's interesting. We're realizing when we start to get into these razor sharp focused edits of things, and we start tapping into our locations, it's interesting that sometimes strange stuff happens, noises, voices, and I don't know if it's something to do with you, like tapping, kind of reconnecting yourself to a location, or because it happened. This discussion came up with our editor of House in Between 1, who was like, dude, in my house, like, I don't know, he's a super skeptic. And
he was just doing, working.
It kind of freaked him out.
Not only him, but his wife as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's.
But it wasn't the House in Between.
It was. Oh, sorry. It was Sleepless. Yes, it was Sleepless. Sorry, wrong. The House in Between as well.
He called us one time with his voice trembling, kind of like, I'm not feeling comfortable with this. I don't understand what's happening.
I know we didn't do this,
and he's like, am I too deep in the weeds, editing this? And I'm just like, I'm seeing things, and he didn't say it's paranormal. He said, I think it's messing with my mind, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know. I mean, he gave us a list of things that were happening. We're like,
and we start thinking about the house. We tap into the House in Between, and we start thinking about it, and it's interesting because, like, I don't know if there's something to it. Like, it's actually a good conversation piece, and it should be looked into.
I would love to talk to more people about it. I don't think it's been talked about enough.
It's just kind of an interesting
among our community.
Yeah.
What happens after you go home?
Yeah. Is it possible to have paranormal activity tapping back into a paranormal location? Like, is it possible to
connect with something following you? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and whether it's psychological or whether it's spiritual, it makes sense anyway. If you're putting all of this energy and all of this focus into those type of things, it's difficult to imagine that the human brain or the human spirit, or however we want to look at it, isn't somehow, I guess, for lack of a better term, actually contaminated by what one deals with.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But well, when you returned the nail, it did slow down.
And again, that might be because, possibly the nail actually did bring something with it, but also possibly, as Kendall was saying, or you were saying, that we're worried about this nail all the time. So
that is
you're open to it.
A really cool psychological study for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that answer.
I'm not going to do it here. No more studies like that. When my kids start getting involved, that's gone way too far.
We can take it, but like when other stuff started happening, that was only one thing that happened. Maybe more happened.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I mean,
and we don't. Just to make a note, we don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah, with
our children.
With our children, we're very much like,
we started addressing the topic of fear and how to address fear and things like that. They actually did go with us. We went in December to visit my sister, and we stopped by the House in Between, and he actually stopped with us and visited Alice, and they went in the house, and they were curious because they know the film, but they don't know the specific topics or anything.
They know, like, the devices and, like,
and they game,
they think
it's
like
YouTube kids, Ghostbusters and things like that. Like that's
they think it's like Ghostbusters. But it's It's interesting.
Yeah, but anyway,
Mm.
that's our story.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you have a closing
Yeah.
question, Jen, at all before I
Well, no,
sign
I mean,
this?
I can validate experiences like that after having an investigation. I mean, it's always kind of known as what paranormal hangover, but with me, I'm a bit of a sensitive, so I always feel like I have kind of hitchhikers tag-alongs, and sometimes I have to deal with. It almost feels like a depression. I don't really know how to explain it, but I feel like that sometimes when I come back, which could be the so-called paranormal hangover. But I do get some weird activity in the house for a while, and I think it eventually fades because I kind of make sure not to engage it.
What do you? Yeah, I was
And
going
it
to
gets
ask.
bored and just goes back where it came from.
Wow.
Do you do any specific technique to handle it, or to just ignore it?
I try to ignore something I've had my whole life, so I'm good at the ignoring.
Yeah.
So
You don't say go
it
away.
has to-
You don't like engage in prayer
It's-
or some sort of smudging or anything like.
if
specific.
it's really bad, I'll smudge.
Mhm.
That I'll do. And sometimes if it's really got to get my attention. It's got to do something pretty profound to get my attention. Not any little things. I'll just ignore it. So it would have to do something pretty big to get me to try and converse with it. And then if I think it's too much for the house, then I'll try and smudge. But thank God so far I haven't had anything that's been, super horrible.
Can you tell us what smudging is for those like me who don't know?
Oh, that is your white sage. There's different other things you can use too, but white sage is quite popular.
So you burn the sage, is what you're saying?
You burn it. You go around through the whole house and just try to let them know you only want the positive around. Negative needs to go elsewhere.
Ancient technique. Some people totally disregard it, but it's ancient. It's an ancient technique, I guess. I don't know anything about it other than you cleanse.
Yeah.
Ghosts don't like smoke. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. My kids don't like the smell of it, so I try not to do it when they're at home because they're just like, you've been burning the sage. And I'm like, yeah, I leave the windows open. Yeah.
That'd be a really cool topic to talk about. I'm really curious to see what other people are experiencing after investigations. And that was not a simple one. That's a Conjuring House.
Yeah.
That was heavy. Oh.
Well, it's always so much fun and fascinating to talk to you guys. Can you give me a hint of what the fourth movie is going to be? Because you said you're about to do another one.
Yeah. We are
in post-production right now.
Yeah, we're in post right now. What can we tell? We can say that it is
it changed my life.
It changed Vera's life. We actually we started this case a while ago. It's
kind of like we started before The Conjuring.
Yeah, this has been like our little baby.
Yeah,
it's like just been slowly kind of just.
Well, we get invited to a Conjuring. We're like, let's do it, let's go. So we put it on the side, and then the House in Between. There's a House in Between part 2. Okay, let's take it and then put it on the side.
Yeah.
And we finally, it's like, okay, not enough. We need to finish this, and so.
Yeah, it's a remote location that is off the radar. We
got called specifically to go check it out.
Yeah, but I don't even. It's not how we found it is just fascinating. And like I don't know. It's a really cool story with an adventure, and again, our viewers and our audience and our friends are along for the ride with us because that's the way this one ended up evolving. We go into these things sometimes and we just don't know.
We think it's gonna go one way and then it goes completely opposite.
And this one kind of took a twist halfway through, and it's really interesting. It's actually changed our studies, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, our mentality for paranormal.
Wow, I can't wait to see.
I can't wait to see that one.
do you have an approximate release date?
Well, it will probably be airing. When did we say? Early next year.
It's going to be early next year.
Yeah, early next year.
Early.
Yeah. It takes a little while for us.
We were hoping this at the end of this year. We're still shooting for the end of this year, but we'll let you know.
Yeah.
We'll let you know immediately.
You know, the best way to stay up with all our movies is robotninjamedia.com. Or just follow us on Facebook on Robot Ninja Media or Vera Whelpton or Kendall Whelpton. And, you know, we're always posting updates and stuff, and our films we'll do the trailer launches and all that. So yeah, Robot Ninja Media. That's our production company. And yeah.
I can't wait to talk about this.
I can't either.
I have so much to say.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have you guys back on. And in the meantime, people can watch The House in Between 1 and 2 and The Sleepless Unrest. I know I watched them on Amazon, but I think it's on a bunch of different platforms.
YouTube.
Yeah, we're
Tubi.
Tubi is one to watch The Sleepless Unrest and The House in Between Part 1. And then
Amazon is the main
Amazon's like the main one. iTunes. But really anywhere movies can be rented or bought. And yeah.
Although Tubi is free.
Yeah, Tubi's free. Commercials, yeah. So.
It's great. So I'm a big fan of that channel.
Yeah.
well, it was so much fun chatting to you guys. We will have you back if you'll come back as soon as your next film drops, because I can't wait to chat to you again then. And until then, keep it weird.
Thank you.
Awesome.